Today, we're talking about something most men overlook, yet it has the power to completely change the way a woman sees you. The longer you stay silent, the deeper she feels it. Now let's make sure we're on the same page. When I say stay silent, I'm not talking about giving the cold shoulder out of anger, being immature, or playing games just to hurt someone. I'm talking about understanding the psychological weight that silence carries and how it can flip the entire dynamic between you and a woman. You see, words are everywhere. Texts, calls, social media posts, likes, comments. But silence? Silence is rare. Silence stands out. And when it comes from you, especially after a woman is used to having your attention, it's like pulling the oxygen out of a room. She notices. She feels it. And the longer it lasts, the more it forces her to think about you. Not because you chased, but because you didn't. Here's where it gets controversial. Silence often has more power than any sweet talk or endless explaining you could ever do. Most men think if a woman pulls away, they should send another paragraph text, explain their side, convince her of their worth. But in reality, that only makes you look desperate. Silence, on the other hand, flips the script. It forces her to wonder, why isn't he reacting? Why doesn't he need me to respond? This isn't about being cold-hearted. It's about understanding that emotional impact comes from space. And when you stop filling every gap with your voice, she has no choice but to fill it with her own thoughts about you. If you've ever wondered why some men walk away and suddenly the woman starts chasing, it's because silence isn't emptiness. It's a mirror. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to use it. 1. When your silence speaks louder than her words. Most men underestimate just how loud silence can be. You might think that not responding, not calling, or not texting is doing nothing, but in reality, it's saying a lot. And sometimes it says more than any argument, speech, or romantic gesture ever could. Here's the thing. Women are naturally tuned in to communication. They listen to words, tone, even the smallest changes in how you say something. But when you take all of that away, when your voice disappears, she's left with one thing, her thoughts. And if she has feelings for you, or even a hint of ego tied to your attention, those thoughts will start getting louder and louder in her mind. Your silence sends a message she can't ignore. It tells her you're not desperate for her attention. It tells her you can live without her. It tells her that you're not playing the role she expects. And that forces her to question the whole situation. This is where it gets interesting. Silence flips the script because it shifts the power of interpretation onto her. She starts asking herself, did I do something wrong? Why hasn't he called me? Has he moved on already? The truth is she's doing all the talking now, but only inside her own head. You're not feeding her answers. You're not giving her clarity. And that uncertainty, that's powerful. Think about it. Most men, when faced with a distant woman, react by chasing. They try to explain themselves, prove they're worth it, or fix things right away. But all that does is keep the woman in control, because she gets to decide if and when she gives a response. Silence turns the tables. She's the one now wondering what's going on, and the longer you hold it, the more she feels the absence. Of course, silence only works if you're genuine about it. If you're sitting there staring at your phone every minute, waiting for her to text, that energy will come through eventually. True silence comes from truly shifting your focus back to yourself, your life, your goals, your purpose. When your life is full, your silence has weight. And here's the controversial part. Sometimes silence will make her realize what she had to lose faster than any good guy move you could make. Not because you're trying to punish her, but because she's suddenly forced to see what it's like without you. That's a reality check most women don't expect until it's too late. When you master this, you'll understand that silence isn't about shutting her out. It's about letting her own thoughts become your loudest message. 2. The mind games she plays on herself. Without you saying a thing. When you go silent, you're not just removing your voice, you're creating a blank canvas in her mind. And the thing about a blank canvas? People can't resist filling it. She starts imagining scenarios, drawing her own conclusions, and running through what ifs at 2 a.m. That's where the mind games begin. And the best part? You're not even the one playing them. Think about the movie Inception. In that film, the whole premise is about planting an idea deep enough in someone's mind so that they believe it's their own. The characters don't force the idea on the target. They simply set the stage, then let the target's own mind do the rest. That's exactly what happens when you stop talking to a woman who's used to your attention. At first, she'll brush it off. He's probably busy. But as hours turn to days, she starts digging for reasons. Is he talking to someone else? Did I push him away? Has he lost interest? The thing is, every possible answer she comes up with creates a new emotional reaction. Jealousy, guilt, curiosity, even fear of losing you. And because you haven't said a word, she has no way to confirm or deny any of it. That uncertainty is what makes the silence so powerful. In Inception, the idea grows until it completely changes the character's reality. In your case, your absence grows until it changes how she views you. You go from being the guy who's always there to the guy she can't quite figure out. And let me tell you, curiosity is one of the strongest attraction triggers there is. Now here's the controversial twist. When you say nothing, you allow her to paint her own picture. And often, that picture is more intense than anything you could have told her directly. If she's the type who values attention as a form of validation, your silence can feel like you've taken away a piece of her identity. That's why some women suddenly reach out, not because they miss you in a romantic sense, but because they can't stand not knowing where they stand with you. The real magic here is that you're not manipulating her. You're simply not interrupting her thought process with your own explanations. You're giving her the space to think, feel, and react. And in many cases, her own mind will be harsher on her than you ever could be. Like in Inception, the most powerful moves are the ones where the other person doesn't even realize you've made them. That's what makes silence such a masterstroke. It lets her mind play against itself while you keep living your life. 3. Why every hour of no contact feels like a week to her. We've all experienced it. Waiting for something we want makes time slow down. Whether it's sitting in traffic, standing in line for food, or waiting for a package you've been excited about, every minute feels like an eternity. The same thing happens in relationships when a woman is used to your attention, and suddenly, it's gone. When you stop reaching out, the clock doesn't tick at the same pace for her anymore. Sure, she might act unbothered on the outside, posting selfies, sharing memes, maybe even laughing with friends, but when she's alone, that silence you've created starts stretching time. Think about this. You order food delivery and the app says your order will arrive in 35 minutes. At first you're fine. You scroll on your phone, maybe watch a video. But when you check the clock and it's only been 7 minutes, you suddenly realize you're counting every second. The anticipation builds and your mind keeps going back to it. That's what happens when you go silent. At first she tells herself he's probably just busy. But after a few hours, she starts checking her phone more often. By the end of the day, those hours feel like days because she's not in control of the interaction anymore. Here's the part most men don't realize. Time moves faster for the one in control and slower for the one waiting. When you were texting her all the time, you were the one waiting for replies. Now that you've gone quiet, she's the one checking her notifications, wondering if she'll hear from you. It's the same reason why as kids, the last week before summer break felt longer than the entire school year. Anticipation distorts time. When she doesn't know when or if you'll break the silence, every minute is magnified. And here's where the psychological impact kicks in. The longer something feels, the more weight it carries in the mind. An hour without a message from someone she barely knows? Forgettable. An hour without a message from you when she's used to daily attention? That's noticeable. Multiply that by days and your absence becomes a presence in itself. This is why men who stay calm and don't rush to break the silence end up holding the stronger position. You're not ignoring her out of spite. You're simply not interrupting her experience of missing you. The clock works in your favor now. In everyday life, waiting can be frustrating, but it also makes the end result feel more valuable. That's the irony. The longer she waits, the more your presence will matter when and if you return. 4. How silence makes her doubt the power. She thought she had power in relationships is rarely about who talks the most. It's about who feels the most secure. When a woman feels she has your attention locked in, she naturally feels in control. She knows she can get a reaction, a reply, or reassurance anytime she wants. But when you stop giving her that, the ground beneath her starts to shift. At first, she may shrug it off. She might even tell herself, "You'll be back soon because you always are." But as the hours and days pass, she starts to feel something she didn't expect: uncertainty. And uncertainty is the crack that shakes the foundation of control. You see, attention is like oxygen in a relationship dynamic. When you give it freely, without her having to earn it, she breathes easily. She feels safe knowing you'll always be there. But when you suddenly stop, it's as if the air thins. She starts gasping, not literally, but emotionally. That's when she realizes that maybe, just maybe, she doesn't have as much influence over you as she thought. Here's where the emotional attachment comes in. People value what they fear losing. If she's emotionally tied to your presence, your smile, your voice, silence makes her confront the idea of losing them. And it doesn't matter how confident she is. That tiny thought can grow into a knot in her stomach. Think about it like this. When someone's always in your life, you can take them for granted without even realizing it. But when they pull away, you start replaying memories. She might find herself remembering the way you laughed at something she said, or the way you looked at her without saying a word. Those moments now feel heavier because they could be gone. And here's the controversial truth. Silence works because it makes her do the emotional work herself. You're not standing there begging her to see your value. You're letting her mind remind her of it. Every doubt that creeps in chips away at the certainty she had about you. This isn't about punishing her. It's about allowing the balance to reset. When she starts questioning her grip on you, she also starts valuing you more. It's human nature. We chase what feels uncertain and we hold tighter to what we think might slip away. So, while she's over there wondering if she misread your connection, if you've lost interest, or if someone else has your attention, you're simply living your life. And the more she doubts her power, the more she'll feel the pull to win it back. 5. When she starts wondering if you've moved on. One of the most powerful things about silence is that it plants a single question in her mind that can grow into a storm. Has he moved on? At first, she might laugh it off. Maybe she even tells her friends, "Oh, he's probably just busy." But here's the thing. People can ignore a question once or twice, but the more it lingers without an answer, the more it eats at them. And when it comes to relationships, the idea of being replaced hits different. We live in a world where moving on can happen fast. One week, you're posting selfies together. The next week, he's at brunch with someone new. Social media makes it worse. Even if you're not posting anything, the possibility that you could be out there enjoying life without her creates a silent tension. Here's the interesting part. You don't have to show her you've moved on. You don't even have to hint at it. Silence leaves space for her imagination to run wild, and the human mind is very good at filling in gaps, usually with the most dramatic possibility. She might start thinking about the last time she saw you, wondering if you were already pulling away. She might scroll through your old messages, looking for clues. She might even check your social media more often, just to see if there's someone new in the picture. And all of this, you've triggered it without lifting a finger. In everyday life, we all do this. When someone stops showing up the way they used to, a friend, a coworker, even a favorite store that suddenly closes, our minds naturally wonder why. Did they find something better? Did they lose interest? And the less we know, the more our curiosity grows. In her case, that curiosity is mixed with emotion. If she has even the slightest attachment to you, the thought of you moving on will sting. It's not just about jealousy. It's about realizing she's no longer the center of your attention, and maybe she's lost her place in your life entirely. That's why silence can be so powerful here. You're not telling her you've moved on. You're not declaring anything. But because she has no reassurance from you, her mind starts preparing for the worst case scenario. And often that's the exact moment she feels the urge to reach back out. When a woman starts wondering if you've moved on, she's really asking herself, was I not worth staying for? And that question can be far more motivating than any speech you could give her. 6. The turning point, where she begins to chase you back. Every silence has a breaking point. There comes a moment when she can't take the uncertainty anymore, when the curiosity, the doubts, and the what-ifs become too heavy. This is the turning point, the shift where the balance of effort changes, and she starts moving toward you instead of away. To understand this moment, let's look at a piece of history. The story of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon in 49 BC. Caesar had been ordered by the Roman Senate to disband his army and return to Rome. But instead of obeying, he paused, waited, and chose his moment carefully. Then, with a single decisive move, crossing the Rubicon River, he set events in motion that could not be undone. His patience and timing didn't just win him power, it forced his enemies to react to him, not the other way around. Your silence works in a similar way. You're not rushing to prove yourself. You're not over-explaining or forcing a reaction. You're holding your position until the moment naturally comes when she can't ignore you any longer. When that happens, the entire dynamic changes. She becomes the one responding to your silence, just as Caesar's enemies had to respond to his bold move. The turning point often looks subtle from the outside. Maybe she sends you a casual "hey" text, likes one of your posts, or comments on something random you shared. It may seem small, but it's a sign. She's no longer comfortable sitting in the distance. She's testing the waters, trying to see if the door is still open. This is where most men ruin it, by rushing back in full force, giving away all the power they've built up. The key is to respond with the same composure you've maintained so far. You don't cross back over into chasing her. You let her keep walking toward you. In history, timing has always been the difference between victory and defeat. Caesar knew that charging too soon or waiting too long would destroy his position. Likewise, in relationships, your turning point is about balance. Too early, and she feels she still controls the dynamic. Too late, and the connection may fade entirely. But hit the right moment, and her pursuit of you feels natural, not forced. When she begins to chase, it's not just about wanting you back. It's about regaining the sense of security your silence took away. That's why the turning point is so powerful. Because she's not just chasing a man, she's chasing the feeling she once had with you. 7. Why breaking the silence? Too soon destroys everything. By now, you understand that silence is not doing nothing. It's an active choice, a move that shifts the balance in your favor. But here's where most men blow it. They get close to that tipping point where she's starting to feel the absence. And instead of holding steady, they cave. They break the silence too soon. And in seconds, all that quiet power disappears. Think of it like baking bread. You've mixed the dough, kneaded it, and left it to rise. If you keep lifting the towel every few minutes to check on it, you let the heat escape and slow the process. If you pull it out of the oven too early, it collapses. In the same way, breaking silence before it's ready means she hasn't had enough time to truly feel your absence. So the effect is weak, almost pointless. Men often break the silence early because they feel anxious. They start wondering, what if she forgets about me? Or what if she moves on? But here's the twist. That fear is exactly what she feels when you don't break the silence. If you give in first, you're handing her back control and confirming she still has you whenever she wants. The beauty of silence is that it forces her to do the emotional heavy lifting. She's replaying memories, doubting her position, maybe even checking your socials more than she admits. When you reach out too soon, you interrupt that process. You let her off the hook before the pressure builds enough for her to act. Here's the conversational truth. If you're going to use silence, commit to it. Don't just dip your toe in the water. Stay there long enough for it to matter. This doesn't mean being petty or giving the cold shoulder out of spite. It means staying disciplined enough to let the effect of your absence fully register. In sports, coaches talk about playing until the whistle. The game isn't over until the referee calls it. In your case, the whistle is when she breaks the silence first. Until then, you hold your position, you focus on yourself, and you let her come to you. Breaking it too soon is like stopping a race just before the finish line. All the time you've invested, all the momentum you've built, gets wasted. And worse, you signal to her that you were never really in control in the first place. If you truly want her to feel your absence, you have to resist the urge to rush. Because when you stay quiet long enough, your silence becomes unforgettable. And when you break it at the right time, it becomes impossible for her to ignore. Silence isn't weakness. It's one of the strongest tools you can use if you understand how to handle it. When you stop giving away constant attention, you force her to see your value in a way words never could. Every second she spends wondering, doubting, and missing you is a second where the balance shifts in your favor. But it only works if you stay disciplined and let the process run its course. Hold your ground, focus on yourself, and let her feel the absence. When the silence finally breaks, it should be on your terms, not hers.